What? 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 Cam link. Hello, everyone. Okay, so I just need to work out where I am. And I'm going to go. Welcome, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I've just had to change the link for this. Okay. Please see me now at Okay. So, are people coming here? Okay. Okay, you can hear me? Okay. 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 I am here, and sometimes technology is crazy. Okay, so I'm hoping now you can hear me, and I'm hoping my camera will give me the right sort of visuals. I'm going to try and also just give me a minute or so to rechange my camera, and I'll be there in a sec. And things never quite work out the way you expect with technology, but hopefully we'll be able to make this work. I think we can. And I'm just going to put an extra camera on just in case. And there, and good. All right, let's assume everything's going to be working fine now. A bit more light, perhaps. Welcome, everyone. Just if anyone can hear me, let me know. I think you're hearing me. Okay, very, very good. Let's go. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about today was the possibility of getting a general formula for doing any postures. And the way I'd like to structure it is that I'd like to give the possibility of finding the simplest form of any one position to get the maximum benefits. So I'll be going through a series of, not too many, a few different postures that we can do to create useful things like hamstring flexibility, psoas flexibility, both of which are very important for the health of your lower back and also to achieve mobility. But then also things that people might like to get, which is arm strength. And, people who like doing gymnastics, yoga, fitness regimes, like getting their arms strong. So hopefully I can share with you a few tips on how to put your hands on the floor and get the best structural security. So what I want to do, though, is allow you as a viewer to always know that you've got an easy version of something and a hard version of something. And if possible, what I'll also do at the end of the time together is give you a little short practice where you just follow my movements and you just do a little practice that feels good for yourself. So how I'm going to start is just by getting you to try and do some movements with me, subject to you feeling good doing them. Don't do anything which feels bad. And the basic principles that we'll be using are the idea that when you're doing something with your physical body, it won't be satisfactory unless it's something you can also get benefit from on a physiological level. In other words, for your blood supply, for the health of your internal organs, and also your mind as well. So I'm looking towards making a practice which is sustainable, which is engaging for your mind, which results in a net calming effect on the body, which is better for longevity and the health of the internal organs, and also something which feels effortless, because the more effortless it feels, the longer and easier you can do it for, and this will allow the nervous system to actually keep you in a place where you're enjoying it physically, physiologically, and mentally. And then it also must give you the health of your cardiovascular system. It must be invigorating. So look to get warm without your heart racing. So let's look first at a simple hamstring stretch. And what I'll get you to do is do the hamstring stretch like most people often do it, and just see if you can get some benefits from this one hamstring stretch. What I'd like you to do is face your screen, so looking towards me like this. I'm usually going to turn away from you like this so you can follow me. And I'd like you to do the same side as me. Don't do mirror image. So what I'd like you to do first is to test your basic first posture, and then let's see if we can find ways of making the posture better, more functional, more useful. Now, if the first time you try something it doesn't feel nice, don't do it. And I'll give every time an easy version and a hard version of something. And if you are suitable for the hard version, try it if you wish, but you never have to. All right, so the first thing we talk about is hamstring flexibility. So hamstring flexibility is the length in the back of the legs, and it's usually determined by bending forward. So if you take your right leg forward and your left leg back, so step forward with your right leg, left leg back. Keep facing me. I'm just going to turn sideways so you can see. When you bend forward the first time, just see how far you go and do it with your chin up and the spine straight. If you bring your chin in and you bring your spine to bend forward, there's risk of more intensity, which could potentially become damaging. So just see how it feels first to go forward with your chin up, and slide your hands down your leg. Stop where you feel it's uncomfortable. You don't need to tighten anything the first time. Just see how it feels, and we'll see if we can find ways of making it easier. If you can keep your chin up and you go a bit further and there's no problems, maybe put the chest on the thigh. If not, stop where you are. And then from there, notice that if you bring your chin in a little bit, usually that will increase the stretch. So better off bringing your chin up. Now bend the knee and push the hip forward, come back up. When you bend forward, you have to appreciate that the sensation that we call stretch is not just muscles that you're lengthening, but they're also the back of the neck. The back of the neck contains the spinal cord, which brings nerves going all the way down the back of the body, and they go along the back of the legs. So if you lengthen the back of the neck, you're also going to lengthen the nerves going all the way down the back of your leg. So often what happens is people who are trying to touch their toes will reach their head toward their toes, and actually that makes it worse. You're better off keeping your head up. I'll give you another example of this, because I'm not just hoping to give you a practice. I want to maybe show you a few things which many people don't take the time to appreciate first. So this time, sit on the floor and just take your left leg to the left and point your body over your right leg. Again, I'm going to turn sideways so you can see me. So again, you're pointing over your right leg. Another aspect of bending forward relates not just to the nerves in the back of the neck, but also the nerves that go all the way down the back of the leg, the sciatic nerve, which go along the back of the calf to the back of the foot. So if you start with your chin up, your spine straight, and the foot plantar flexed or pushed away, and you slide the hands forward as far as you comfortably go. I'm asking you to be relaxed and just see how far do you comfortably go. Many people might only go here or even less. And if you can, go a bit further, but don't feel stretch. Now notice what happens with your chin up if you pull your foot back towards you in dorsiflexion. It's bringing the toes closer towards you than the heel. Notice that will increase the sensation of stretch more. But if you push the foot further away, the sensation of stretch lessens. Partly, come back up, it's because the sensation of stretch that we're feeling in the back of that leg is not just muscles lengthening, it's also nerves. So if you're doing this position, the easiest and safest way to get to bend forward is to do it with your foot pushed away and your chin lift up. So without tightening any muscles, push the foot away in plantar flexion, the chin lift up in extension, slide your hands forward and notice how far you go without discomfort, so go less or more than me, then come back up, and then this time when you go down, do what I'll consider a more intense sensation, which is not necessarily what you want to do, but notice the effect. Many people will think that you have to touch your toes. So this time, just pull the foot towards you, which makes your toes closer. Bring the chin in, then slide forward, and notice that the stretch is more intense. So better off, chin up, foot push away, less intense. Now come back up. This is important to appreciate that the sensation you're getting when you bend forward is not just muscles, it's also nerves. So to avoid the nerve lengthening effect in the beginning, keep your foot pointed away, keep the chin up, and that's a lot better. Now stand back up. Now one of the things you can also do is appreciate that when we're feeling a stretch in the back of the leg, which is an important muscle to get length in because it will help you relieve a lot of lower back pain, and also it helps you be functional. It's nice to be able to reach and grab something without the sensation of discomfort, without the sensation of loss of freedom. So to achieve this, it's important to know that when you feel a stretch, the sensation of stretch is not usually just a lengthened muscle. It's a muscle which has become lengthened and became tense via what's known as the stretch reflex. Stretch reflex is what happens when you go to a doctor, the doctor hits your knee, and then the knee becomes tensed up. So when we're bending forward with gravity, the back of the leg becomes lengthened, not by the force of our body moving forward with our own body muscles, but rather with the force of gravity. And gravity acts on the back of our leg like a hammer acts on the knee, and it causes the muscles at the back of the leg to become active or tense while they're lengthened, and we interpret a lengthened tense muscle to feel like a stretch. So if you can release that muscle, the stretch releases. Now, one of the ways that people popularly talk about releasing the back of the leg, you've often heard pull up the kneecaps. But if you pull up the kneecaps, it can cause problems. Just try it for a moment, but see if it feels okay for you. So to pull up the kneecap, if you feel the right thigh, so go back onto your right thigh, and just pull up the kneecap. Pull up the kneecap means make the front of the thigh firm and pull up the kneecap like that, if you can understand what that means. And then once you've done that, take the right leg forward again. Keep facing me. I'm just turning sideways so you can see. And with the kneecap pulled up, press on the front of the feet to release some of the sensation at the back of the leg. And from that position, keep the kneecap pulled up, keep the front of your thigh as firm as you can. Now go forward again and see if it feels a little bit easier to bend forward. Keep the kneecap pulled up. Now, bend the knee, push the hip forward, stand back up. Many people give this instruction. Did it help you? Maybe. But the problem is that you're not obliged to keep the kneecap pulled up. So being not obliged to keep the kneecap pulled up means you're less likely to think of doing it. Plus, when you tell people pull up the kneecap, they often pull up their cheeks. Pull up your kneecap, and people become tense in the face. So pulling up the kneecap is not a good idea for a couple of reasons. One is it takes a lot of thinking process. Two, it makes you feel a little bit tense in front of the whole body. And you can often see that if you say to yourself, or if a teacher tells a student, tighten a particular muscle, that the act of consciously tightening a muscle will usually make everything else become tense. And I've often said to my students that if you tell people, which is commonly done in a class, to say, tighten your anal sphincter or tighten your anus, which you often hear, or tighten the pelvic floor, you often hear, then what happens is people do this. which is the wrong mouth, of course, and people become tense. Same, if you tighten your buttocks, people become tight in these cheeks, wrong cheeks. So avoid, if possible, the need to tighten muscles just for the sake of tightening them. The conscious modern body is not very good at isolating individual muscles. So a better way of activating the front of the thighs is to actually tighten the front of the thighs in a more voluntary way, a less voluntary way and a more obligatory way. And there's two ways we can do that. But another problem with pulling up the kneecap, and you can feel this for yourself, still with your right leg, feel the front of your right hip. And if you touch the front of your right groin and now pull up the kneecap, you'll feel it tightens the front of the right hip. And that may not be a problem if you're young or if you've got absolutely no hip problems. But what happens is, to most people, at least 50% of modern adults over the age of about 40 or 50, the front of the hip is becoming very tense from the 5 to 15 hours of what many people do all day long, which is sitting. So to undo the over-tension on the front of the hip, it's important not to add to that by pulling up the kneecaps. So although you hear this instruction a lot, it may cause hip problems. Also, it may cause additional tension. Also, pulling up the kneecap can damage the back of the knee. And so I'll get you to feel this again, and then we'll move on a little bit. So again, step your right foot forward, left foot back, and keep facing me. I want you to feel the reason why this may cause a problem in 50% of people. So what I'd like you to do is notice the difference of when we bend forward with our kneecap pulled up. Does it feel better or worse if you press on the front of the foot or the heel of the foot? Many people find that if you press on the front of the foot, pulling up the kneecap doesn't hurt as much. Pressing on the heel will cause pain in the back of the knee. So see if you can feel this. So I want you first of all to pull up your kneecap, tighten the front of the thigh consciously, press with your toes onto the front of the feet, or press on the front of the feet. You can even grip with your toes a bit. Keep the kneecap pulled up and keep your chin up, slide forward as far as you can. Then bend the knee, push the hip forward, stand back up. Now this time do it and put the weight on your heel. And if you put the weight on your heel and lift and spread the toes slightly, now pull up the kneecap and then go down with your kneecap pulled up. Many people find a lot of stress comes to the back of the knee. So bend the knee, push the hip forward, come back up. And the reason is because when you pull up the kneecap, 50% of people normally will have hyperextended knees. And you can see for myself, I have this. When you lock the knee fully, it becomes over-lengthened at the back, whereas with my knee slightly bent, it's not like that. Half the population have hyperextended the knees. So for at least half the population, if you say to yourself or your student, pull up the kneecap, and you might say, some people often say things like, spread your toes, that may cause additional pain on the back of the knee. So if you are saying pull up the kneecap, the trick will be to say one of three things in addition. Pull up the kneecap plus press on the front of the foot, or grip with your toes, or bend the knee slightly. And those will counteract the negative effects on the back of the knee for pulling up the kneecap. But you'll still have additional tension. It'll be a bit of a brain trip to try and remember to do it, and you may get hip problems. So what's a better way of pulling up the kneecap? Well, there are two better ways. I'll give you the least better way first, and that is to lean on your left leg, come to the right toe tip, and just lean back and open up your arms. Keep facing me. And then from there, come to the same position as we had bending forward by lifting up your right leg. And if you lift up your right leg, now you're balancing on one leg. If that's an issue for you, hold a wall. So lift up one leg, keep facing towards you, lifting your right leg still, we're working on the right leg. And then from that position, pause. Now notice the front of your thighs are firm. This position obliges you to pull up the kneecap. So you don't have to tell yourself pull it up, so you don't have to think about it. Also, because you're not thinking about pulling up the kneecap, you don't need to tighten. You don't need to tighten anything. You don't have to think about it. You can focus on being relaxed. But notice also with the kneecap pulled up, the front of the hip is also firm, and that can be uncomfortable for some people. So if it's uncomfortable in the front of your hip, turn your thigh out. That usually hurts less. Turn the thigh in usually hurts more. So better when the hip is flexed, turn the thigh out, and if you'll feel your buttocks, you'll find the reason why. Turn the thigh in without lifting the hip. That causes more tension at the front of the hip. Turn the thigh out causes less tension at the front of the hip because it causes the muscles at the back of the hip to become firmer. Okay, that's better. And if you do this for a few moments and just check you're relaxed, move your fingers, move your shoulders a bit, move your neck a bit, wiggle your toes a bit, open the pelvic floor, breathe into your abdomen, soften your face, and now notice you're getting warm. Now, if you put your foot on the floor, keep the chin up and go forward, notice if bending forward is easier. And for many people, you'll find it's much easier to bend forward now. Bend the knee, push the hip forward, come up. So one tip for increasing hamstring flexibility and making any forward bend easier is to lift the leg up in the air first, hold it for 30 seconds, relax while holding it, then bend forward. And if you were doing this on the floor, you could also prepare for every forward bend by doing that position first before bending forward over your leg. That could be something you could do instead. But if your hip hurts, don't do it. So there's a better way of doing it on the other leg. So let me go back now to the second leg. So let's work on the second leg for hamstring flexibility. So face again towards me. Lean on your right leg. Step the left leg forward. And now keep facing me, and I'm just moving sideways so you can see me better. So with your hips level and your chin up, and your left leg relaxed, so you see a basic feeling, to see if we can change it, to see if we can improve it from the basic relaxed pose. Chin up, leg relaxed, slide forward over your left leg. Notice if it feels a bit stiffer this side, it usually is. Notice also the stretch increases if, keep the chin up, you lift your foot up, that's a nerve tensioning. If you bring your chin in, it increases the stretch more, so better chin up and press on the front of the foot. When we come up, it's easiest if you bend the knee, push the hip forward and stand up. Now, what can make it easier to come into this pose is if you tighten the front of your thigh before going into the pose. So what's a way of tightening the front of the thigh? Well, what you can do is activate the front of the thigh by bending the front leg. Now, most people know that an easy version of bending forward will be to simply bend the knee. So try this for a moment. If you bend your left knee, with your left knee bent, now bend forward, it's a lot easier. Now, many people will think that doing this is going to make it not useful, that you're not going to develop hamstring flexibility. So bend the knee, push the hip forward, stand up. But that's not true, because when you bend the knee like this, what's happening is automatically the front of your thighs are firm. Try, bend both knees, and as soon as you bend both knees, you'll feel the front of your thigh is firm. Now, without realizing it, that's sending a signal via the nervous system to relax the back of the left leg. And so if you hold this long enough, then you'll find that it actually releases the back of the left leg. So what we can do to prepare for this is, again, hold a wall if you feel like it. And then from there, lift up your right leg and just hold it towards your chest a little bit. Then bend the left knee as far as you can. So if you need to hold a wall, if you don't hold the wall. And this is not feeling like we're releasing. It doesn't feel like you're stretching the back of the leg. But see if you can hold it for about 30 seconds. The further down you can go, the better, but don't go fully down. So no more than hips below, maybe hips same height as knees is enough. If you want, you could raise the left heel up, but you're on your left leg, the left knee is bent, you can hold your right knee to your chest. Don't pull, just stay relaxed. So you can even keep your knee up, bending it like this. You don't have to hold it with your hands. So in this position, check. Can your fingers move? Can your shoulders roll? Can your neck move? Can you relax the pelvic floor and wiggle your toes a bit? Can you breathe into your abdomen and let the air come out naturally, like when you're asleep, the most regenerative thing you can do? And then from there, just move the hips a bit, bend the knees further again if you can. Now, it's not feeling like you're getting a stretch at the back of the leg, but what's happening is the front of your thigh is firming in the same way that you pull up your kneecap. But you're not telling yourself to tighten anything. It's just happening by itself. And this is sending a signal of reciprocal relaxation to the back of the knee. So come up. Notice it make you warm, but the heart didn't have to race much to do it. So now we test. Bring the left leg forward, right leg back. Keep facing me. I'm turning sideways so you can see. Keep the chin up, slide forward over your left leg, and notice if that's a little bit easier. And most people will feel that effect. Bend the knee, stand up. There are some people who might not feel this effect. Often they're pregnant or at a particular hormonal cycle where there is maybe relaxant flooding through the body, or maybe you've already warmed up your body, etc. But what we want is simple ways to come into a posture where it doesn't feel like a stretch. You see, many people want to get stretch, but actually what you really want is not stretch. You want flexibility. And if you can come into a posture and demonstrate that you're flexible, that's better than actually getting a sensation of stretch. The sensation of stretch is the one you get just before pain, which is the one just before an injury. So if you can do a position without a sensation of stretch, it gives you a much better result. Then if you were to get stretch, you'd be much further in the pose before you got it. Okay, so there's one more thing about getting the feeling of the hamstring stretch. And that feeling will come better if you push your sitting bones, which are the origin of the hamstrings, toward the heels. And that way, when the sitting bones push toward the heels along the line of the hamstrings, that will prevent the hamstrings from overstretching. And furthermore, it helps you work from your core. It's a mistake to lock your core. Better to move from your core. So many people have heard me talk about the importance of spinal movements. Well, your spine is an expression of your core. Your core really is the region between the navel and the pubic bone inside. The region between the top of the hips and the tailbone inside. And it's the center of your body between the diaphragm and your pelvic floor, and it's the region which is surrounded by your intestines, surrounded by a whole region of immune tissue, immune system, and also the enteric nervous system, which is your second brain. There's so many nerves there that we can think of it like a second brain. So to work from the core and to also minimize the stretch in the hamstrings, it's important that when you bend forward, although bending forward will cause our sitting bone to lift up, don't think lift the sitting bones up. Let the sitting bones lift to bend forward, otherwise you won't bend forward, but push the sitting bones toward your feet. So let's try this. Bring again your right foot forward, left foot back. And then touch your sitting bone of your right hip with your right hand. And that's where the hamstring joins onto. Keep facing me. I'm turning sideways so you can see. Now, to go forward, again with the chin up in the beginning, I want you to push your sitting bone toward your foot. So what I'm getting you to do actually is something to work, if possible, from your core. So get a feeling of pushing the sitting bone forward. So in other words, imagine you were lying on your back and then someone asked you to lift up the hip this way. So when you push the hip in the direction of the foot, that's what I want you to do on the floor. So with the right foot forward, left foot back, push your sitting bone toward your foot. So get a feeling that as you bend forward, even though the sitting bone lifts up, it's pushing toward your foot. Like a hammer presses a nail. Imagine my fist is the hammer, and it's pushing the hip in toward the foot, the sitting bone. Then as you do that, go forward. You don't need to tighten the front of your thigh. You can relax it. You can keep the weight in the front of the foot and go forward. Keep the chin up. Go as far as you comfortably can. And then to stand back up, push the sitting bone toward the foot on the way up and come back up. And that usually is a lot better. Now let's try carefully the opposite. Now this will be the way that there's no wrong or right, but what's better for most people most of the time on a physical level, physiological level, mental level, it's the way that hurts least and causes the best effects. So I'm going to show you, and you can try if you want, what many people I hear teach, but often does not give the best effect overall. It might feel like you get the most stretch, but there's potential risks. Try it carefully if you wish. So again, right leg forward, left leg back. I'll turn sideways so you can see. Try and lift the right sitting bone backward and up. So make your right sitting bone go backward and up, fold forward from the hips, as many people say, and as you do that, you'll feel a massive stretch in the back of the right leg. Now that stretch may not be the best thing to do. Now if you kept doing that and tried to come up, you'll also feel the back starts to strain, which is definitely not a good thing to do. So a safer, better way of doing it is the other way. So let's do it the way that I say, not right, but the way it works best for most people. And maybe you're not one of those people, but most people will find it better if you push the right sitting bone into the right foot, keep the front of the thigh relaxed, and then go forward with your chin up. And then when you come up, the safest way to come up is to again push the sitting bone toward the foot and come up like that. Now, because that's difficult to see what I'm doing, it's better to come up by bending the knees. So again, go forward like that if it feels okay for you. Push the right sitting bone into the right foot, go forward. Then from there, to come up even easier, bend the right knee and then stand up. And as soon as you bend the knee, that takes the strain off the back and it actually causes the sitting bone to push forward anyway, much safer. So these are some simple tips to make the forward bend one-legged hamstring stretch much safer, much easier. And of course you could stretch the back of the legs with both legs at the same time, but if you are stretching the back of the legs, safest is to stretch one leg at a time and not to stretch the spine. So rather than doing something like this, which stretches the spine and both legs, if your aim is to get flexibility in the back of the legs, stretch one leg at a time with your spine mostly straight. That will make it easier. And then when you are learning to bend forward from the spine, safest way to do it in the beginning is to bend the knee. So on the left leg, let's do the left leg now. Left leg forward, right leg back. Keep facing me. I'm turning sideways so you can see. And now try what I'll call the best way and the worst way for most people, although there's no wrong or right. Push the left sitting bone toward the left foot, and then feeling as if you're trying to stretch the mat with your feet. Push the sitting bones apart. Relax your pelvic floor, otherwise you become tense there. And as you go forward, and you'll notice it's relatively easy, even if your hamstring is your quadriceps or thigh muscles are relaxed. Keep the chin up. Then push the sitting bone toward the foot to come back up. That's better, to push the sitting bone forward. Let's try the not so safe one, not wrong, but it's the one that causes many people problems, but which is often taught inadvertently through a misunderstanding. It is normal that when you bend forward, the top of your hips will move forward and the sitting bones will move back. That happens by itself, but to tell someone push the sitting bone backward and up or to fold forward from the hips causes an over pushing in the wrong way, and it causes the muscle to overstretch and the spine to become potentially weak in the core and risking damage. So let's try this and see if you feel any negative implications. Only go as far as you can safely for your body. So left leg forward, right leg back, like we've done. Now this time, let the left sitting bone go backward and up. Keep pushing the sitting bone backward and up as you go forward. Notice the stretch seems stronger. Now, if you're not sure, bend the knee to come back up. But if you want to try it, keep the sitting bone going backward and up and try and come up. Notice the back will tense a lot more. It feels uncomfortable for most people. So, better is to push the sitting bone in the direction of the foot, which means you're moving more from the core. Since your body is bending forward, wherever your body goes, your core should have gone there first. That's one way of looking at it. So before your head goes to your foot, push your core to your foot. And your core could be the pubic bone or the sitting bone because they're the lower parts of your core. So try again what I'll say is easier. Push the left sitting bone in toward the left foot, like a hammer pressing a nail, and then go forward. And then keeping the sitting bone of the left leg pushing towards your left foot, push the hip forward, come back up. Better for most people. Maybe not for you, but for most people. Go forward again, push the sitting bone toward the foot, go forward, and even easier still, bend the left knee. Then the hip automatically goes forward, and it's the safest way to come up for most people, especially beginners. Because to understand push the hip forward is one thing when you're going forward. I can just show you. I can just push the hip forward, do that first, and then go forward. But to understand coming up, pushing the hip forward, it's very difficult to show or explain, so it's easier to bend the knee, and that makes the hip come forward standing up. All right, another aspect of this is to do with when you do more difficult poses. More difficult poses include things like the idea of getting power from your core in this position, if I'm not too premature in this. Many people talk about tightening the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor can tighten in two distinct ways. It can tighten pulling in or tighten pushing out. And to understand what I mean by this, I want you to feel your abdomen. So face me, feel your abdomen, and then put your fingers into the soft abdomen. And then without lifting your chest, relax the abdomen and breathe into the abdomen. So the abdomen will soften, expand like a baby's belly. It looks ugly. I'm the one on camera, you're not, so it's worse for me, but I'm relaxing my abdomen. Now, that doesn't look nice, but it feels relaxing. It's the sort of thing you would do while you're asleep. Now, compare. If I say to you, pull the navel to the spine, what does that mean? So I can say pull the navel to the spine, and I can do it in 4 distinct ways. I can pull my navel to my spine using exhale muscles, or using postural muscles, or using transverse abdominis, or expanding the chest. And all of them make it look like my navel moved away from my fingers and came closer to my spine. I have a video on this on the YouTube channel called the Yoga Synergy YouTube channel, if you'd like to see a 10-minute version of understanding that very important concept. When you tell someone, pull their navel to the spine, or when you tell yourself that, it can happen in 4 distinct ways, and not all of them will be useful for the task you're trying to do. So let's see 2 of these ways. If I ask you to tighten your abdomen, how do you do it? So see 2 distinct ways. Put your fingers into your soft abdomen, and then I want you to tighten your abdomen. So tighten the abdomen, and then release it. When you tighten your abdomen, ask yourself, did the abdomen pull in, away from your fingers, closer to the spine, or did the abdomen tighten by pushing outwards, further away from your spine, toward your fingers? And so I want you to try and do something different to what you normally do. So put your fingers in, and then tighten your abdomen. Again, see, does the abdomen pull in like mine did now, or push out like mine did now? Because both of those things look like pull in if your hands are not there. But the tightening will affect you in different ways. If you tighten your abdomen and you pull it in away from your fingers, and then you try and breathe into your abdomen, it causes tension. Try this. Put your fingers in the soft abdomen. Tighten your pelvic floor, and tighten the abdomen by exhaling hard. Blow out the air. And as you exhale fully, squeeze out all the air. Pull your abdomen in toward your spine, away from your fingers. Notice the abdomen is hard. Keep the abdomen hard and in. Try and breathe into your abdomen while it's hard and in. And notice that you can't. You feel tense. Most people will feel this. Now relax your abdomen fully. And with your abdomen relaxed, breathe like a baby. Looks ugly, I know. Inhale to your abdomen and let the air come out by itself, which is what you do in the most regenerative thing you do in your life, which is sleep. It's what babies do when they're walking round. When a baby walks round, their abdomen is sticking out. It's not wrong, it's natural. So if you're a baby and you're walking around like this, it's very unnatural. You don't see babies pulling up their anus and pulling in their abdomen to walk around because it's not natural. But what is natural is for your abdomen to firm at certain times when you do certain key postures. So if you feel your abdomen now, put your fingers in the soft abdomen and simply bend the knees, push both sitting bones forward, keep your spine straight and lean back. Don't hurt your back, keep the collarbone lifted. Notice, come up and do it again. If you put your fingers into your soft abdomen, bend the knees, think abdomen relaxed, and with the fingers in the soft abdomen, lean back, and notice the front of your abdomen firms and pushes out against your fingers. Now, it appears to be firm, but actually it pushed against your fingers. Didn't pull in, it pushed out. Now, this case is breathe into your abdomen, and notice that it's easy to breathe in your abdomen. You are firm, but also calm at the same time. This is the core stability that will allow you the power to do the things you need for strength while staying relaxed and not becoming stressed. This is important because if you can no longer breathe in your abdomen, you might develop benefits in strength and flexibility, but you'll be destabilizing your nervous system, increasing heart rate excessively, and turning off your immune system, digestive system, reproductive system. To get functionally viable in your nervous system, which is the part that controls things like immunity, digestive health, reproductive health, the regeneration of your cells, you need to always be able to breathe into your abdomen. When I say always, at least 90% of your exercise time, you want to feel that breathing could easily be natural. That when you inhale, you feel it low. When you exhale, it's passive. There's not much of it. You don't have to think about it, and it happens through the nose. But if you find that the breath has to be in your chest, that you've got no choice, but it's up in your chest and it feels tense, this is shallow breathing, this is unhealthy breathing. Breathing in the chest is not as easy as it seems for most people. Most people do it only because they're forced. We can talk about this another time. But what you felt then was the possibility, I'm hoping, that you felt the possibility the abdomen can be firm in two ways. It can tighten pulling in, and it can tighten by pushing out. Now your pelvic floor is the same. Now, many people talk about the importance of tightening the pelvic floor, but actually the pelvic floor should tighten not inwards, but outwards. And when we talk about the pelvic floor being tight for useful reasons, it's not the anus you want tight. You want the perineum, the center of the perineum tight. And the way you do that is, again, like we did with the abdomen, do something to firm the pelvic floor and then inhale into it. So I want you to try this and see the effect. Bring your right leg forward, left leg bent, left leg back, and have both legs bent for this for the moment. With both legs bent, I want you to feel the power that comes in your legs when you push the hips into the feet, which is what I was doing with you in the hamstring stretch. So push your right sitting bone into your right foot and push your left sitting bone into your left foot. And while doing it, see what strength you have in the legs. And then release. Now do it again. This time, see what happens if you tighten your anus, tighten your perineum, tighten your urethra, tighten all the muscles that you would normally use to prevent yourself going to the toilet. Many people erroneously think that this is part of something to do with core stability, or in yoga they talk about mula bandha. It's one aspect, but not the aspect that you normally want. So let's try it. I want you to, again, right leg forward, left leg back. You keep facing me. I want you to tighten all the muscles in your pelvic floor, squeeze them like you're stopping a diarrhea attack or something like that. Then, with the muscles really tight, push the feet apart, push from your sitting bones into your feet, and try and breathe. Notice the breath goes higher up when you tighten your pelvic floor tight in this way, and your legs will feel weaker. So release. If you want your legs to have more power, then instead of blocking the pelvic floor, open it. And it'll feel a little bit like you're just letting it go. But in fact, if you were to touch it, you'll notice when we do the exercise we're doing now, it appears that the perineum, the middle of the pelvic floor, will firm outwards in a way which actually makes the legs stronger. Now, if you're a person who has got a pelvic floor weakness, then this exercise may not be good for you. But if you're a normal person without the risk of incontinence, maybe who, is not someone who's just had a child perhaps, not someone with prolapse, but for most normal people, the pelvic floor is way too tight. So, I'd like you to try this if possible. Again, right leg forward, left leg back, both knees a bit bent, and get the sense of power in your legs by trying to stretch your mat with your feet. But do it by pushing the feet apart from the sitting bones. So push your right sitting bone into right foot, left sitting bone into left foot, and push apart. But this time, relax the pelvic floor. And notice there's more power. Now, if you want to have more power still, expand the pelvic floor, like you're about to go to the toilet, but not forcing it, just release it. And then if you can, breathe into the pelvic floor. Feel like the inhalation starts at that point. Then the legs become stronger still. And notice when you're doing this, if you push the sitting bones into the feet and relax the pelvic floor, it also makes your abdomen firm, but it's an abdomen firmness which you can breathe into, just like the pelvic floor. Release. You may need to try that once or twice to get the idea of what I mean. Let's try the other side and see if you can get the effect the other side. Put left foot forward, right foot back. Okay, keep facing me, and we'll start off what I'll say is the best way for most people, worst way for most people, best way. And this is not necessarily right or wrong, it's just the way that works best for most people, most of the time on a physical level, muscles and joints and strength and flexibility, physiological level, blood flow, nervous system, internal organ health, and mental level, so it's less stress for your mind. Okay, makes you feel happier. Okay, so left foot forward, right foot back. First of all, open the pelvic floor. Relax the pelvic floor. Breathe into the pelvic floor as if you're about to go to the toilet, but not forcing it. Relax your abdomen, and then push the left sitting bone into left foot, push right sitting bone into right foot. Knees a bit bent is fine for this one. And then notice the power that comes to your legs. This is the same power that we could use when we're doing the forward bend, hamstring stretch, and other poses. Or if you're trying to push a car or something like that, if you're just trying to push something. Now, release. Now compare that feeling, which is one you can breathe into your abdomen. The abdomen usually becomes a bit firm. Your pelvic floor has become firm by pushing out, not pushing in, and it's relaxing. If it's not relaxing, of course, it's not for you. But now, try the opposite. Tighten the pelvic floor, like constricting your urine or your ability to go to the toilet to have a defecation or anything like that. It sounds funny talking about pooing, but this is important. We all do it. If you don't, there's a problem. So tighten your pelvic floor, like restricting going to the toilet. And then with your pelvic floor tight, notice already it's much harder to breathe low into your abdomen like you would if you're in your most regenerative sleep. Then start to push the feet apart. And with your pelvic floor tight, it's difficult to breathe in your abdomen. Your abdomen is not that hard necessarily, and it's also very difficult to push with the feet. So release it. Better is, instead of tightening the pelvic floor and pushing the feet apart, push the sitting bones apart and relax the pelvic floor. Feel like your feet start at your core, and the bottom of the core can be expressed by the sitting bones. And breathe into the pelvic floor, expand the pelvic floor to allow the sitting bones to move apart. So left foot forward, right foot back, expand your pelvic floor, relax the pelvic floor, breathe into your pelvic floor, and push left sitting bone into left foot, right sitting bone to right foot, and feel the power that comes in your legs. Also feel that you can breathe into your abdomen better. I hope you felt this. Not everyone will feel all the exercises I'm showing, but trust me, having taught I've taught for 40 years and as an exercise-based physiotherapist, most of these things will work for most people. And if you're someone who teaches someone else, maybe you don't feel this, but trust me, at least 90% of people who are practicing with you, if they're newer people especially, will feel this. All right, so we've talked a bit about working with your legs in forward bends. One of the things that causes a lot of problem is stiffness in your psoas muscle. So I mentioned this briefly before, but imagine you're someone, like most modern people, who sits on chairs 5 to 15 hours a day, and that makes the front of the hips extremely tense. So the front of the hips are extremely tense. When you stand up, you're probably going to stand up like this, and many old people actually walk like this. So if they're walking like this, they don't like it. They can't see where they're going. But old people are stiff in their back. Young people will compensate by keeping the top of the hips in front of the sitting bones and arching their back. And they walk around like this. So their sitting bones are sticking outwards, the lower back is compressed, and it causes back pain for many people. This back pain is primarily because the front of the hips are so tight. The front of the hips have one important muscle called the psoas, which goes from the inner thigh across the front of the hip and joins onto the lower back. So if that muscle is too tight, it will cause compression in the front of the hip and also a compression in the lower back. Imagine that this muscle going from the inner thigh to the lower back is tense, and I want you to use your left leg for this. Stand on your right leg, touch your left lower back with one hand, touch the inner right thigh with one hand. I'll turn sideways so you can see. And what happens if you pull these two bits closer together? You'll get the left hip flexors and turns out. The back arches and drops to your left. And that's what's going to happen if the left hip flexor, the psoas, is tight. If both psoas are tight, you're just going to walk a bit duck feet and your back's going to be arched and squashed. Are you a person like this? Maybe. So you can test if you're a person like this with a tight hip flexor, maybe by seeing how much the back of your leg will easily touch the floor. So I want you to try a simple exercise, and I'm going to ask you to lie on your back, again face towards me, and lying on your back, hug the right knee close to the chest so the armpit and the knee touch, and then straighten your left leg and drop it to the floor. If your left thigh doesn't easily touch the floor while your right knee and armpit touch, that suggests a stiff psoas. If your knee easily touches the floor, your psoas is quite flexible. You can test it, okay, like that. Then another way you can test it is by seeing if your lower back is a bit compressed. So do this simple test for your lower back. Be careful. Start with your knees slightly bent, and then curl the sitting bones backward and up, and pull the shoulders backward and down. And notice if this feels uncomfortable for your lower back. If it does, it suggests a tight psoas and a weak lower back. So how can you release the psoas? We keep this as a test. So just carefully, tailbone up, shoulder down. Is there a sense of compression in your lower back? Come out of the pose. About 90% of people have that. And you can relieve it in several ways, which I'll talk about if we have time. But to stretch out the psoas, which can also release it, do the opposite of what the psoas wants you to do. So I said the psoas wants your hip to flex, turn out with the back arched, side bending to left. So in which case, if you want to stretch your psoas, do the opposite. Turn your left thigh in, extend the hip, bend the spine forward. I'll show you from the side. So you're extending the hip, left heel raised up, left thigh turned in, spine bending forward, and lengthen the left side of your body. And this particular posture will give you a lot of relief in the front of the hip. So you can feel this. Can you feel a stretch in the front of the left hip? So notice what will make it worse. If you make it worse, you'll make it less stretch rather if you take the right side up. Notice the stretch is less in the front of the left hip. Take the left side up, the stretch is more. Now if you only lift your arm but not the shoulder, you won't feel the stretch. So take your left shoulder past the ear if you can, and more stretch comes. The best way of doing that is to take your left arm forward, then up, and that gives more of a stretch. And then from that position, if you twist your navel and your right arm to the left, there's more of a stretch too, and it compensates for the hip. So try that. Make your left arm go forward and up. Turn your navel and right arm to the left side, and notice that's more of a stretch. But if you lower your left shoulder and let the arm come to the right, then there's less stretch. If you lift your right side up, there's less stretch completely. So better stretch comes on your psoas if you take the left arm forward, take the shoulder up past the ear, and twist your navel to the right. Get a better effect. You also get a better effect if you bend the spine more forward. So bend more forward. Notice that stretches the front of the left hip, and the lower back is lengthened. Get more stretch also if you turn your thigh more inwards. Just do that. Turn the left thigh in, left heel raised, round out the lower back, compare it, expand the front. If you open up your chest and pull in the abdomen, you'll find the front of the hip stretches less. We want a stretch in the front of the hip. If you round out the lower back, bring the shoulders forward and expand your abdomen, that will release the front of the hip and lengthen it, and it releases lower back pain. Now compare one more thing. If you turn your left foot out, which is your left thigh turned out, stretch in the front of the left hip is less. If you turn the left thigh in, front of the left hip, if you bend down enough, it feels more. So let's do all of them together. Lengthen the lower back, round it out. Left leg back, round out the lower back. Expand the front of the hip, so push the front of your left hip forward, the top of the hips back, lengthen the lower back. Take the left arm forward and up, twist your navel to the left, and then expand your abdomen. Breathe into the abdomen. And better still, push your sitting bones into the feet and relax the pelvic floor. Push your right sitting bone into the right foot, push left sitting bone into the left foot, relax the pelvic floor. Get more length by pushing your shoulder blades apart, and that means left shoulder forward and up, right shoulder forward and down, and relax your throat. So 2 important instructions. Push your sitting bones apart, relax the pelvic floor. Shoulders apart, relax your throat. 3rd instruction, round out the lower back and breathe into the abdomen. Move your lower front ribs in and back, lift the upper back. Now lift your collarbone. Breathe into the abdomen. Then release. Now, if you've got all of that happening, you probably feel a little bit more open in the front of the left hip. One of the ways you can get the effect to test it is to now bend backwards. So start with your knees bent again, face me. I'm turning sideways so you can see. Lift your sitting bones backward and up. Pull your shoulders backward and down, and notice if you feel a little bit less squashed in your left lower back. If you do, then you're on the right track. If you feel a bit less squashed in your lower back, you know that lengthening actually gave you some benefits. But if this is a good stretch of the psoas, then why don't people put it in normal yoga classes, for example? So you see a similar stretch to the one we did then in physiotherapy textbooks, but they usually do it with the knee on the floor like this. And many people still overarch their back. You get a better effect if your leg is straight, and you get a better effect still if the left thigh is turning in actively well turned out. That's called resistance exercise. So the pose that actually many people do in yoga classes but really misunderstand is this one. It's the right leg forward, left leg back, round the back out, take the left arm forward and up, turn the navel and right arm to the left, keep that feeling, keep that shape. Now let the left foot turn out and then bring the right shoulder down. And then you're in a position which in yoga textbooks they call Parshvakonasana. I'll turn sideways so you can see. But notice my back is lengthened. My left shoulder is past the ear. My right shoulder closer to the hip. I'm making my navel turn up toward the ceiling. And then I'm expanding my abdomen to look at the fingers. I'm breathing into my abdomen, and I'm pushing my sitting bones into the feet and relaxing the pelvic floor. Then lower the foot, push on the foot, stand back up. Now that's the way that pose is meant to be done, but that's complex because what many people do in that posture is the exact opposite. Many people, when practicing that posture, have been told to expand the chest, pull the abdomen in, pull the shoulders back and down, and although one arm is up, it's often taught to pull the shoulder down, and then people often are doing this. And so that position, you can see, is actually this. And so what's happening is people are doing that. And if you're doing that, you're not going to get the effect. Right shoulder has to be down. Left shoulder has to be up. Spine has to bend forward. And then if you're looking at the fingers, the belly has to expand to lift up to look at the throat. That's complex. But that's why this posture often is done very wrong. And of course, the back leg still must be turning inwards. So you have to be in this position with your left thigh. Although the foot is turned out, your thigh should be trying to turn inwards. And that's what releases your sacroiliac joint, the lower part of your back. This is a complex pose. So in the beginning, it's too difficult for most people to get benefits from. That's why I work generally with much easier poses. So let me show you a more accessible version of this, and maybe you can try it, maybe you can't. Maybe you need a wall. On the second side, I'll show you an even easier way. So the purpose of this pose then is to release your lower back. Let's try again to release it in a different way. So what I want you to do is come into a fully active version of this pose in a similar way that we did when we bent forward. We got a better result if we lifted up one leg first, which causes the front of the thigh to become firm, or if we bent this leg and then make this thigh firm obligatorily. So I'm going to give you a version of this side stretch, which is done actively, where you're not just falling into the pose, but it's active. And it's one of the most important postures to give you warmth without the heart racing, strength while feeling relaxed, flexibility without getting a stretch. So let's try it. And on the first side, I'll just get you to do it. On the second side, I'll show you an even easier way of working towards this. Okay, so I want you to start by facing towards me. Take your right foot, turn it in slightly, and come to your left toe tip. Then round your back out the way I'm doing, so you can see like this, and expand the abdomen. Looks ugly, but it's effective. Then from there, twist slightly to the left side. Then lengthen the left side of your body. Again, expand the abdomen. Then lean on your right leg, lead from your left lower back, and step the leg back to the toe tip. Bend the knee slightly, take all the weight on your left leg. I'll turn sideways so you can see. So you're doing a forward bend, twist to the left, lengthen left side, similar to what we did before, expand the abdomen. Now shift the weight fully to your right leg. Come to your left toe tip, and before you lift up the leg off the floor, again, forward bend from your back, ribs in, abdomen out, pubic bone forward, top of the hips back, lengthen the lower back, ribs up, lift the upper back, expand the abdomen. I know your chest is collapsed, but it doesn't matter at this stage. Twist your belly button to the left and take the left arm forward and up. So you've pushed your shoulders apart, relax your throat, relax the pelvic floor, breathe into the abdomen, then subject to your balance, and you may want to hold the wall with one hand, lift up the left leg off the floor and turn your left thigh inwards. So notice my left foot is turning fully inwards so it points to the right side. And when I turn the left thigh in, it releases my sacroiliac joint, so my buttocks is very soft. This is great for your left knee. Strengthens the hamstrings, great for your sacroiliac joint, and it makes blood flow and your sympathetic nervous system switch off and your parasympathetic nervous system switch on. So if you need to, you hold a wall, but make sure the left armpit is past the ear. And then from that position, hold for a few moments and try and relax. So either toe tip on the floor, but all the weight on the right leg or in the air. Lengthen your fingers and toes. Check they can move. Push your shoulders apart, relax your throat. Push the sitting bones apart, relax your pelvic floor. Round out the lower back, breathe into the abdomen. Then from that position, come out of the pose. And notice if it made you feel warm. Notice if it made you feel warm. Notice if your front hip feels looser. Now see if your back feels less squashy. Bend the knees slightly. Face me. Then stick your sitting bones backward and up, shoulders backward and down, curl your tailbone up, and notice, does the left side of your lower back feel less squashy? Most people will say yes, and also you felt warmer. So now, does this posture make sense? If we did the stretch again like before, step back your left leg, left armpit toward the right, past the ear, right arm to left, round out the lower back, and notice the stretch doesn't feel as strong on the front of the left hip. The stretch is gone. And if you rotate your left heel to the floor and take your right hand down, this position, which we did before, is a lot easier. Doesn't seem difficult at all. And then lower the hand, push on the foot, stand back up. In other words, this active version of the pose, which was moving actively from your core with an understanding of where the psoas goes, gives you a much better release of your left lower back, makes it much easier to do this very difficult and complicated standing pose. Now I want you to see the other side, because probably if you've done everything I've said, you're feeling a bit warmer. What happens if we do the other side? So see what happens if you come to the front of your mat faces, turn your left foot slightly in, bend the left knee, take your right leg back, bend the left knee. Now, take the right arm over the head, bend the left knee, and if comfortable, bring your left fingers to the floor or close, and notice this side of the pose feels difficult. It feels stiff. So lower the hand, push on the foot, stand back up. Even though you feel warmed up, the right side of the body is not loosened up. So I could get you to do the whole stretch again this side. And I could get you to come into this position And we could go through the process of stretching, but it's complex. I could give you the instructions, but what you really need to do is learn to move actively from the core and move the trunk, the outer part of your core. The core is between the navel and the pubic bone. But another expression of the core is your whole spine. A bigger expression of your core is the whole trunk. Learn to move your core, not lock the core. Learn to breathe from your core, not restrict the core and breathe into the chest. So to do this, I could get you to come directly into the pose we did before and show you how to come to the toe tip and round the back out with a forward bend and a twist to the right and a side bend to the left and an expansion from the front. Teach you how to take the leg into extension and turn the thigh in. But that's complex. So better we learn these things by yourself. So to learn each of those things individually gives you a better result. So let's do the individual spinal movements and notice how you can get warm but still stay calm. Okay, so the warm but stay calm, start with the knees slightly bent. And then with the knees slightly bent, push your pubic bone forward and up, the top of the hips back, round out the lower back, ribs back, lift the upper back, and then from that position, expand the abdomen and shoulders forward and down. Chin up, belly out. And this position, although it seems difficult, or it seems ugly, is the one you need to learn before you're balancing in the air. So many people practice these positions like the half handstand, and this half handstand position requires this shape. So do this shape for a moment. We'll work on the half handstand a little bit later if you want to and we have time. This position is the forward bend. It's forward bending from the spine but not the hips. So push your pubic bone forward, the top of the hips back, round out the lower back, lengthen the front of the hips, ribs in, belly out, throat forward, chin up, shoulders forward, shoulders turned in, breathe into the abdomen. And release. That can relieve so much lower back pain and help to build strength. Looks ugly, I know. Then the next position is to learn to expand the front of your body. To expand the front of your body is different to shortening the back. So when we expand the front, it's push your pubic bone down and forward, make the belly button go up and forward and lift the collarbone, lean slightly back with your chin in. So there's no shortening of your back, it's a lengthening of your front. Then you can do this, you'll breathe into the abdomen, the sitting bone's in front of the collarbone, and that keeps a safe back bend for most people. When I'm doing this, the front of my abdomen is firm, the sides of my abdomen are soft. It's like what many people call nauli, the isolation of the rectus abdominis, which I could do like this. But I learn automatically like this when I lean back and simply relax. This is isolation of the rectus abdominis, and it should happen automatically when you lean back, but for many people it doesn't because you're just over firm or over tense. So the next thing will be to now get the side bending happen. Just before we do that, check the back bend again, because there are two types of back bend. This one is the one which is the safest. Lengthen the back first, then expand the front. Pubic bone down, belly out, collarbone up, chin in. I notice my front got bigger. So if I start normal position, my pubic bone and collarbone move apart. It makes me bend backward without pain. But if you shorten the back instead, it looks the same. So keep your collarbone and pubic bone where they are, lift the tailbone, lower the shoulders, and that can cause pain in 9 out of 10 people usually. If it doesn't for you, you might be one of those 1 out of 10. So that will not be so useful, and it can cause energy drainage, and it causes pain. So better, rather than shortening the back of your body, lengthen the back first, then lengthen the front even more. And that's a better back bend for most people in the beginning. Now we work on side bend. So the side bend is lengthen the back of the body, then drop the left hip and take the left shoulder forward and up, left elbow up if you can, and then if possible take up the left arm. Now push your shoulders apart, relax your throat, drop the left hip, and notice my left armpit is past the ear, if you can make it go there. Left shoulder forward and up is easier than taking the left arm backward and up. If you try that, take your left arm to turn out, Bring it over your head like that. It usually jams the neck. But if you bring your left arm to turn in and bring it up, elbow bent, go up, it usually goes higher and your body gets longer. So take your left shoulder forward and up higher, drop the left hip, go lower, lengthen the back of your body, and if comfortable, move the hips to your left. Then come to the right toe tip, and that will fully lengthen the left side of the body really nicely. Breathe into the abdomen, and then from that position to come out of the pose, keep the left arm up, bend the knees, take both arms forward and up, both arms forward and down. And now lengthen the right side of the body. Do it by dropping the right hip slightly, rounding out the lower back slightly. Take your right shoulder forward and then up as high as you comfortably can. If it doesn't feel good, just lift the shoulder. You don't have to lift the arm up. Then from there, stay or round the back out a little bit more, expand the abdomen more, and if comfortable, move the hips towards your right side. Come to the left toe tip if you wish, with the leg bent or straight, and push your shoulders apart. Relax your throat. Notice my right arm is not on the right side. It's not even above my right shoulder. It's more toward my left side. And it's going right past the ear. That position eventually becomes this position like that. So we'll do it later, not yet. So don't rush. Breathe into the abdomen. And then take both arms up, both hips down, and expand the abdomen, come back down. So this is how you really understand side bending. Then the other movement that's important to appreciate is twisting. So to twist, start with your hips level, and then from that position, round the back out, and from that position, turn the navel to the right side in a forward bend, but don't move the hips. So keep the pubic bone toward your left, round out the back, turn your navel toward the right. Then expand the abdomen, and then elbows can extend. Look over the left shoulder with the left ear lifted. And if comfortable from there, you can turn from the hips. Now be careful for the hips. If you let the hips turn, you need to protect and strengthen your knees. So to do that, your right foot will be turned in slightly, so try and turn it out. Squeeze your right heel in. It's like you're trying to turn the right thigh out. Whereas your left leg will eventually turn out. So here with your left leg, you want to turn the left thigh inwards. And that gives you the stability in the legs. And that's exactly what you should be doing in the front and back leg of all the standing postures that most people practice. Your front leg in the standing pose should have the foot slightly turned in and you're trying to turn it out. The back leg should have the foot turned out and trying to turn it in. That's complex, but that's what's expected of these poses. And you can learn it here. Twist the spine first, then let the hips twist and try and turn the right thigh out, left thigh in. Then from that position, come back from your navel and bring the right arm under the left. Expand the back and expand the front, and then lift the shoulders slightly, go back down. Now for the second side. Keep your hips level, round the back out, twist your navel to the left and your pubic bone to the right. So you're really twisting from your core. Breathe into the abdomen, don't move the hips. Then push your pubic bone down to the right, belly button up to the left, and expand the front of your body. And look over the right shoulder with the right ear lifted. Breathe into the space between your pubic bone and your navel. Then from there, if you wish, you can move your hips, but be careful for the knees. Let your hips twist to left, and now to make sure that your legs work safely, try and turn the left thigh out, try and turn right thigh in. It's as if your left heel is squeezing inwards, your right big toe squeezing inwards, which is what you would need to do if you're doing a pose like this side bend. You try to turn your left thigh out, your right thigh in. And then from that position, you're twisting to the left, breathe into the abdomen. Then to come out of the pose, push your pubic bone and your left arm under the right. That retains firmness, and expand the back and expand the front. This is what's going to make a difference when you do all that in the posture. Now, for your right leg, if you want to stabilize your knee and also get the release of the psoas, hold the hands on the hips, round your back outwards slightly and come to your right toe tip. Step the right leg back, Lean on your left leg. Keep the hips level, but turn your right thigh in. Lean on your right leg and round the back out. I'll show you from the side. Expand the abdomen, then lean on your left leg again and lift the right leg off the floor. Then if you feel your buttocks, it should feel relaxed and your hamstring should feel firm. Keep your hands on the hips and then turn the right thigh out and notice the buttocks goes firm and the hamstring goes soft. Hands on the hips so they don't move the hips. Turn right thigh in, hamstring becomes firm, buttocks become soft, the sacroiliac joint opens, and that releases the psoas and also releases the compression that comes into the sacroiliac joint and opens up your parasympathetic nervous system and makes you warm. Breathe into the abdomen. Release. So we can do that. It's important to learn that on both sides. To go back to the left leg, lean on the right leg, come to the left toe tip, round the back out, step back, leading from the core to your left leg, shift the weight back to your right leg, put your hands on your hips, don't move your left hip, instead turn the left thigh inwards without dropping the hip, and then from there, shift the weight back to your left leg, round the back out slightly, expand your abdomen, then shift the weight to the right leg, be on your toe tip, and maybe lift the left leg up. Then you'll feel the hamstring is firm, your buttocks should be as relaxed as you can, the more you turn in your belly, your thigh. Now keep the hands on the hips without moving your left hip up or down, turn your left thigh out. Notice the buttocks becomes hard, the hamstring becomes soft, and this is not wrong, but it's a position which won't be ideal in some of these poses. By turning the left thigh in here, it releases the psoas muscle. It also releases your sacroiliac joint, because this region of the lower back lengthens. And that helps you also because it makes your diaphragm work better, because the psoas, when lengthened, will join onto your diaphragm. And the psoas, when tight, keeps pulling your diaphragm downwards. So psoas, when shortened or tensed, will actually pull the diaphragm downwards. Then from there, breathe into the abdomen, release. So now we've learned these movements, can we put them all together to get this posture? You can, but of course it's easier just to do those movements. They're simple movements. And in a few minutes we're going to practice these movements and see if they're of any use to you. So what I'll do now is I'll get you to stand on your left leg, so take your left leg forward, turn it in slightly, lift up the right leg, come to the toe tip, and again do a forward bend first, add a twist to the right second, drop the right hip, take the right arm forward and up and lengthen the right side, third, then expand the abdomen, fourth, step back the right leg, shift the weight to right leg, and emphasize again, a forward bend, a twist to the right, a right side lengthened, and expand the belly. Then shift the weight to your left leg, turn the right thigh in, and emphasize again, forward bend, twist to right, lengthen right side, expand the belly, lift the right leg. And check, fingers can move, shoulders can roll, neck can move, abdomen can breathe, and notice you get warm straight away. Then from that position, step the right leg back, take your left arm down, and then you're in the position. Just come back up for a moment. Notice if it made you warm. Notice if you feel a little bit more like there's blood going through you without the heart racing. And now come into the pose like before. Turn the left foot in, come to right toe tip, and from there, round the back out. Twist to right, lengthen the right side, lead from your core and step the leg back, and then come down into the posture. And see if this side stretch is more effective. Now, once you understand that's what the trunk is trying to do, that's what the side bend is trying to do, then you can also get the feeling of working perhaps with more complex things, like arm balances, like back bends. And I'll give you two, and then we'll practice. So the two I'll give you are the possibility that this forward bend that we did first, here, can also be done balancing on one leg. And to balance on one leg, what we need to get is the idea that this forward bend, in terms of the spine, is a forward bend of your back, but it's also an expansion of the belly. You need to make the pubic bone go down and the belly button go up. So it's not right to think you're bending forward with the spine. You are in the end, but you're trying to make the navel move forward and up. And when the navel moves forward and up, that's what gives you openness. So the way you can get the feeling of this is balancing on one leg. Shift the weight to the left leg, come to the right toe tip, round the back out. Then from that position, pubic bone up, belly button down, abdomen out, chin up, stay here. Or look at the floor for balance, grip with your left toes for balance, bend the standing leg for balance, and lift up the right leg. This is an active movement. Now from there, grab the right knee and pull it close. Keep the right knee close, lean back. Now with the knee and armpit touching, start to straighten the left leg. Notice it's hard to straighten the left leg, but it forces your hamstring to work. And if you twist your navel to the left, that makes hamstring work more and your psoas lengthen more. Now notice the more you try and straighten the left leg, the more the shoulder and the armpit and the knee move away. So keep your knee and armpit touching. Then lean back, lengthen the front of the left hip, start to try and straighten the left leg, but notice it takes more effort, release. Notice you have to pull, otherwise the knee does not stay on the chest. So what's going to make you pull? Well, what makes you pull should not be just your arms. Your arms have to start at the core. So when you pull, if you really pull with your arms, it makes your belly want to expand. So I want you to not pull the abdomen in, which is what happened if you do this. Make the abdomen come out as if you're leaning back like that, which means when you lean back, your abdomen pushes out and you can breathe into it. That's what you should feel when you're holding with the arms. You have to feel like you're resisting from the core. So what I'll get you to do, again, lean on the left leg, come to the right toe tip, round the back out, the forward bend to come actively into the pose. Pubic bone up, navel down, abdomen out, chin up. Lift the knee as high as you can. Rest again if you want to. Stay there, or grab the knee and armpit touching. Bend the left knee, lean back. Now start to not just straighten the left leg. I want you to pull with your arms and push away with your knee. But the arms must start by expanding the belly, and the knee pushes away by pushing down your pubic bone. So it's not just pull with the arms, resist with the knee. Make your belly expand, then pull with your arms. Don't just push away the knee, push your pubic bone down, and then push the knee away. It's push your sitting bones apart, relax the pelvic floor. Expand the belly to pull with the arms, now start to straighten the left leg. Then from that position, if you wish to go further still, bend the left knee, hold the heel, not the foot, and now push the hip into the right heel, and you've got this position, the one that we did before. So shoulders down and forward, elbows up and forward, breathe into your abdomen, and then release and come back down. Could you do all that? Maybe, maybe not. But this is the secret. Not letting the sitting bone lift up, but push the hip into the foot, which we did in the air just then. So left leg, let's try the left leg. Shift the weight to your right leg, come to the left toe tip, round the back out, keep facing me. Push the pubic bone up, navel down, abdomen out, chin up. Lift the left knee up if you can, active pose. Grab the knee, keep the knee close. Bend the right knee, left knee and armpit touch, lean back. Now don't just pull with the arm, resist with the knee, and tighten your abdomen. If you do that, blocks you. So think, relax the abdomen, be in this position, but try and do that. So you're trying to think, expand the abdomen. Don't just pull with the arm. Make the belly expand to pull with the arm, but stay in the posture. It's a resistance pose. You stay in the pose, but try and escape from it. Don't just push the knee away. Make the pubic bone push down. Make the sitting bone push away. And that pushes the knee away. So try. Lean back, lift up the pubic bone, lift the knee up. Then from there, lean back, push the pubic bone down and forward, push the knee away. Make the belly button go out, forward and up, and pull with the arms. Now breathe into the space between the abdomen and the pubic bone, between the navel and the pubic bone. Then release. Do the opposite. Try the opposite. Push your pubic bone up, pull the tummy in. Then bring the knee in. Now keep your tummy held in tight, abdomen pulled in tight. Try and breathe into your chest. And then pull with the arm, resist with the knees, and notice you're weaker. If you breathe into the chest with your anus tight, your abdomen sucked in, you breathe in the chest, it's much weaker. Release. Don't lock your core. Don't just force the breath into the chest. It's okay to breathe in the chest at certain times, but the breath, even then, must start from the core. So when we lift up, lead from your core, and then when you're holding, resist from your core. Push your pubic bone and knee down and away with your belly button and arms as if you're pulling back and expanding the belly. Then breathe into the space between them. Try again. Lean on right leg, come to left toe tip. Pubic bone up, belly out, shoulders down. Then lift the pubic bone, lift the knee up. Look at the floor for balance. Bend the knee for balance. Grip with toes for balance. Hold. Now you're in the pose. Stay in the pose. Lean back. Now push the pubic bone down and forward. Push the knee away. Move the belly button up and forward to use to pull the arms. Breathe into the space between them. Lean back. Start to straighten the right leg if you can, and turn your left thigh in slightly. Stay there. Or if the flexibility of the forward bend we did first was still there, hold the heel, not the foot. Push your left hip into your left heel and compress the leg. Then you're in the pose which looks more difficult. Soften the throat, face, and the eyes. Breathe into the abdomen, release, come back down. 2 more quickies. It's for fun, no? The 2 more quickies are, can you take the weight on your hands? If you bend the knees and sit on the floor, what's it like for you to do a push-up? So the push-up, if you put your hands on the floor and the palms are flat, and you just keep your elbows moving forward over the fingertips, that takes quite a lot of strain for most people. If you lean fully so the shoulders are over the fingertips, that could strain your wrists. So to protect your wrists and to protect your elbows, stabilize your shoulders, you need to do a few things. So I have to go through this fairly quickly, and I have other videos you could watch as well. When your palms are on the floor, don't leave them with that feeling. Have the palms flat, but feel like you are gripping with your fingers. You're grabbing a section of the earth. That will stabilize your wrist. With your elbow, although your elbow is in this position, feel like your forearm is trying to do that. So this is called pronation, this is called supination. Be in this pronated position, but try and supinate. It's like your fingers are gripping on the floor and you try and squeeze the heel of the hand inwards. That stabilizes and balances the muscles in your elbow. Then for your armpits, for your shoulders, push the armpits down and tighten the armpits. And that will give you stability. So try it for a moment. Palms flat, fingers grip the floor so the tips are white. Heel of hand squeeze inwards. Then tighten the armpits by pushing armpits to the knees and pushing the hands forward so front and back of shoulder are active. Then from there lean towards your fingertips. Keep your elbows moving forward and bend the elbows if you wish and come back up. See how it feels. You can do a bent leg or straight. Make sure as you're doing it, you can breathe into the abdomen. Compare with the way that doesn't feel so good. Be gentle, be careful. Spread your fingers. Squeeze the heel of the hand out, bend the elbows again, and notice the arms feel weaker. You don't want to spread your fingers alone. You need to spread them, then grip with them. You want to squeeze the heel of the hand inwards. So palms flat, fingers grip, heel of hand squeeze inwards, elbows over the fingers, armpits firm by pushing hands forward and armpits backwards towards your hips. Bend the elbows and come back up and down. Knees on or off the floor, whichever's best for you. All right, then you get the feeling for it. Now that you've understood this, we could try 2 more difficult postures if you wish. Do you need to do them? Absolutely not. But I wanted to give the option that while some of you are doing, say, for example, this posture, if I'm going to lean first on the right toe tip, that might be all you do. Stay there. Or some of you might do this. Stay there. Or some of you might do this, or you stay here. Or some of you could put your shoulder against the knee, elbow against the left leg, and come to the same shape on the floor by pushing your pubic bone against your left thigh and taking the right leg back. So you're doing essentially that position again, like the lunge, but balancing in the air. If you wish, it's optional. Applying the principles I've given you here, so the right thigh is turning inwards. You could try the other leg if you wish, and I'm going a little bit quicker because this is only for some of you. So on the right leg, you can lean on the left leg, come to the right toe tip, And we could do this position and just call it a forward bend, or the weight on the left leg. Or you could lift your right leg, stay here. Or you could hug and resist by pushing pubic bone and knee away and belly and arms pull. Or you could straighten the leg and compress hip into heel. Or you could push your armpits against the knee and in this position push the pubic bone and knee away. Turn your left thigh inwards and push the sitting bones apart and expand the belly to lift up the chin. That's hard. It's optional. We could try it. Then another thing we could do is in the side bend, which we did also before, say with right leg forward, left leg back. I've told you that this back leg, like in the back leg of all the standing poses, has the foot turned out, but the thigh should try and turn in, and the navel is trying to twist to the left. The thigh turns to the right, navel turns to the left. If you wish, you could do from this position, take your right arm in front, slide your shoulder under the knee, put your hand on the floor, and then lift up your right leg if it's flexible enough, twist your belly to the left and lean forward. Grip with your fingers and turn your left thigh inwards. Breathe into the abdomen and then release. I'll do it, second one from the second side so you can see. It's left leg forward, right leg back, forward bend, lengthen the right side, twist to the right side. The back leg tries to turn in. Once you understand this, this is the same pose coming on the floor, palms flat, fingers grip, heel of hand squeeze inwards, armpits firm, and the left leg might be able to lift up and straighten, turn the left thigh out. Then the belly button has to twist to the right, and the right thigh tries to turn to the left. And you're lifting up that right leg the same way as you have to have the feeling of pushing the sitting bones into the feet. Maybe you've got this, maybe you haven't. So what I'd like to do is do a simple practice for about 10 minutes, and I want you to follow me as best as you can. I won't talk. I want you to make it meditative. So to make it meditative, I'll make a click sound, and the click means you can follow me. How much you follow me is up to you. Don't force, don't overdo. And every time I click, you have the option to copy my movement. I'll go through one simple spinal movements first, then I'm going to go into the possibility of these more difficult poses, which you could stay on the toe tip or lift the leg in the air, you could stay standing on your feet, or you could go onto your arms. Do what feels safe for you. Keep your eyes on me if my eyes are straight ahead, and keep facing me the whole time. I will occasionally turn sideways so you can see a better angle of what I'm doing. Don't force, don't overdo. Make the aim of this practice to come into the zone, to be in the here and now and be in a more meditative place, like the athlete zone, something which is sustainable, engaging, effortless, calming, and invigorating to make blood flow. And avoid all the things that block blood or cause stress. So you tense less, stretch less, breathe less, think less, and make the good energy, good cardiovascular function, and loving information, parasympathetic dominance in your nervous system, that which encourages immunity, digestion, reproduction, flood through your body by keeping the parasympathetic nervous system dominant, by moving in a way where you move actively from your core, resist actively from your core, breathe naturally from your core, and move fluidly. Copy my clicks and movements. Less or more than me, copy. Start by facing towards me with your legs hip with knees bent. I'll face sideways for the start. And less or more than me. If I click, you can follow. If I don't click and keep moving, it's optional. Maybe stay where you are for a bit longer. Tense less, stretch less, breathe less, think less. Follow my click sound when you're ready and keep the eyes on me. Don't do anything which feels uncomfortable. Move actively, move from the core, breathe naturally, move fluidly for 10 minutes. And we do a little bit of what we've done so far. Thank you very much. I hope in that last little practice you worked according to your level and you stopped at the appropriate place for you. You could have done it on the toes or in the air, on the legs or on the hands. It's always good to be at the place which is appropriate for you to still stay calm. My heart's not racing, I'm very warm, I've raised a light sweat. What you want, if you want sustainable exercise, is stuff that doesn't cause stress. So it's important to appreciate the level that you're at. And remember, the main purpose of the practice is to mostly be in a zone-like state. The place which is sustainable, engaging, effortless, calming, yet still moves blood, while doing the things that will give you greater strength without feeling tense, increased flexibility without feeling strong stretch, which can eventually become risk of damage of something, and increased blood flow without making the heart race, increased sense of relaxation without needing to lie on your back, and ideally an increased sense of physical intelligence without having to overthink. And so maybe some of the things that I've shared with you today could help bring you to that. If you want to learn more, we have lots of courses. There's a course called 84 Postures for Strength, Flexibility and Fitness. You can see the link to it later on. I'll send you an email about this later on if you want to look later. And I have two websites, simonborgolivier.com, which has a number of courses on the physiological, physical, and mental effects of doing posture, movement, breathing, mental control for well-being, fitness, health, longevity. And also we have yogasynergy.com, which more focuses on the yoga postures that relate to these things and the principles along the lines of traditional Indian yoga. But I've been fortunate enough to learn with great teachers from Tibet, South Africa, Japan, India, and China as well. So I don't like to call just what I'm doing yoga. And as an exercise-based physiotherapist, I've been lucky enough to have trained with many great modern science geniuses. And so I thank all my teachers for everything I've learned. And it's a thrill to be able to share things with you. So you'll get a copy of this you can see again later on if you like. And if you want more, go to our websites. I'm about to go teach on my online website at simonborgolivier.com. Maybe you'd like to join me there sometime. And most nights, most Wednesday nights, I teach there for a couple of hours and answer questions to my group there. I hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much. You can write to me if you like and ask me questions, and if I can, I'll answer. Bless you, love you. Thank you very, very, very much for being here. Thank you.